Hello and welcome back to the Pedal Progressions podcast, where progression is the obsession. Today we get to talk to some good friends of ours, Eric Graf and Jake Lombardo. But unfortunately, we do not have the sweet, savory voice of our very own Craig. He unfortunately had an emergency he had to attend to today, so he will not be joining us, so you're stuck with just Kellen and I today. Kellen, why don't you tell us about the guests today?
Our guests today were Eric Graf and Jake Lombardo. We had a fun time getting to know them. Some of my highlights of our conversation were talking about getting caught in the wildfires in Oklahoma, what they look for in a destination for a fun gravel bike trip, how Eric likes to physically hurt Brian.
Ouch.
And how Jake unintentionally started a bike team with a crying eagle as a mascot. Brian, why don't you tell us about some sponsors?
Our sponsors today are 8th Day Gym again. They have the Burn Intro offer for $49, where you get unlimited classes for the whole month. And that is the training that I do and see the most benefit from. And it's an awesome community, and it really does help. And also, our longtime sponsor, Building Blocks Foundation, Inc.org. We got some news today that we will be having a golf outing on August 22nd at Boulder Creek. We are looking for teams and sponsors. The sponsor range is between $125 for a whole sponsor to $2,000, but it includes a whole bunch of stuff, and it's $500 per team. Also, we have the Mother's Day flower sale going on, and you can order a hanging basket of flowers for your mom and pick it up at Building Blocks, and all the money goes to the summer programs that they offer. Kellen?
You can find us on pedal_progressions_podcast on Instagram. Our link tree is in the bio. You can also email us at pedalprogressions@gmail.com. Also, check out our merch store. We have added new things, so check that out. If you'd like something custom, custom color, custom name on the back, email us, and we will try to make that happen for you. So without further ado, here is Eric Graf and Jake Lombardo.
Yeah, Zoom, we've done a couple with Zoom, but the awkward spacing and stuff, it gets really hard to know when to jump in or when not. People end up kind of rambling stories out a little bit because they just don't want to leave a space.
Yeah, judging the delay is tough.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I mean, if I had better internet, it'd probably be better. We've been trying to get, I've been working on this like about once every 3 weeks. I'll send an email. I'm trying to get Robert Irwin, the crocodile hunter's kid, because he's a big mountain biker. And
heck yeah. What else is he doing? Get him on.
Well, I didn't realize he's like a heartthrob, like millions of views. I used to watch the show, and he wears 5'10s when he wrestles crocodiles, and I was like, oh look, he's got flat pedal shoes on. And then checked out some of the bike edits, and it's a lot harder than I thought to get a hold of a teen heartthrob.
Have you tried before, or is this your first time?
I believe this is my first time. I did have a rowdy party experience in Long Beach with Jensen Ackles and
yeah, he's from Supernatural.
Yep,
I know that guy.
Both those guys.
And the other guy, what is his name? You know, what's his name?
I can't. I'm blanking on it, but it's the guy that plays Sam.
I'll think of it.
MacGyver.
Yeah.
No, I love the show. And I didn't even put two and two together. I was visiting my friend who lived on a dorm full of girls. So it was a bunch of like cute freshman girls. And they wanted to go to the hookah bar, so we went to the one by UCLA, which is like where they did Beverly Hills 90210 right there. And we were upstairs, and these guys come up, and they're like, "We'll pay for everything. Come over to our house party." I was the only guy. And it was fun. We taught them how to play like waterfall and stuff.
Yeah, I discovered that show when, like, probably I don't know, they had like 8 or 9 seasons out already. So I was able to, and there's like 57 episodes per season, and they're all an hour long.
Yeah.
And it was before I had kids, and so I nothing else to do. So I binge watched that show for like a year and a half.
I like that show. I'm doing that with Walking Dead right now. All the spin-offs currently. But I think everything here looks good. It's been recording, so I'll probably clip some of that and put it in there.
Good. Let's keep it that way.
That's the plan.
Just wait.
His mic's not even on.
Is this on?
Thanks for coming, by the way, because that was short notice.
Oh, what do you mean this wasn't planned the whole time?
Very glad that you guys could fill in. Especially
Yeah,
because
man.
we already talked about it at the bike shop the other day.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Should be good.
So, because we were talking about this at the bike shop, you guys recently went on a trip to Oklahoma to go to, what's that called, Midsouth?
It is, yeah.
And some wild stuff happened, similar to our wild stuff that we dealt with earlier last year, I guess. When you guys like flew out there, what did the weather look like before you guys even got on the plane? Were you like watching it like,
Not really. I mean, so the thing about that area is when you start looking at the extended, because it's not like there's a big like Lake Michigan where like, oh, a storm can break up over the lake or whatever. When you're in the Central Plains, the weather's pretty predictable, and so it didn't change much from the 10-day forecast. So we knew that it was going to be wildly windy on Friday, but race day weather looked like it was going to be perfect, and this all panned out to be 100% true. So on Friday we got there and it was just remarkably windy. I mean, sustained winds, 60, 70 miles an hour. I've never experienced anything like it. And so the weather itself was not really the surprise. It's what came from it that it had everybody talking. It was kind of the talk of the cycling community across the country that year when the wildfires started. But as far as the weather itself goes, yeah, nothing super remarkable. Actually, it would have been a phenomenal day to race if the whole state wasn't on fire.
I'm a weather nerd, and I had seen this red flag warning, and I was like, well, probably be fine. I actually had a former meteorologist in the office earlier that week, and I was like, so how is this looking? And she's like, you're probably going to have a very bumpy flight in, and if there are fires, it's going to be a problem. I was like, all right. And like Jake and I and Rob went out for a ride at we started at probably 10:30 in the morning, like a shakeout.
On Friday.
Yeah, on Friday. Headed out. Winds were like picking up, but nothing like super concerning. But then when we got out on the course and I'm going down this long downhill, and I'm following our other buddy, Rob Schaefer, who was with us, and I'm watching him. We're on the right side of the road, and this wind gust picks up, and Rob is going straight down kind of a clear stretch of road, and I see him get pushed into the chunk, and I just kind of see him keep prevailing right, and he saved it. He stayed upright. But the rest of the ride, the winds were proper at that point. And we actually came up on a group of probably 10 or 12 people that were out doing the exact same thing we were. And we got into town and we actually saw another woman. She's going and there's a proper cement curb on the side of the road. And you just see her just kind of get railed into this curb. And she just hops off her bike and just stands there, waits for the wind to die down.
Yeah,
it was
like a wind gust came up, and that whole group of ladies who were all Rob. You're talking about Rob getting blown across the road. Rob's every bit of 185 pounds, and he got blown all the way across the road. There's this group of ladies who are all relatively fit, relatively small, and this wind gust came up, and they all just stopped riding. They just put a foot down and said, "Well, done for today, I guess."
And at this point, the race is still not canceled, right?
No, not. I don't even think it was in anybody's.
No question.
It was. Yeah, it's gonna be windy, but whatever. We knew this was coming. There wasn't even any talks of the race being canceled or postponed, because at this point, so with Mid-South, it's a festival, and so they have races on Friday. They have running races on Friday. So while we're doing our pre-ride, what we're talking about, there's runners out on the course like doing they have a half marathon
In a 50K.
and a 50K.
How long is your race?
So there's 2 bike options. There's a 50 and then there was 100. And so we were signed up for the 100 mile the next day. So no, it was really just kind of business as usual. We finished up the pre-ride and got into Stillwater. And once we were in the sort of in the protection of the downtown, the winds didn't seem as bad. But at one point we looked over and the roof of the bike shop was actually separating from the bike shop. Which is not what you want to see.
And shortly, like as that was happening, pretty much simultaneously, that occurred. And I was looking at, you think of like Gaslight Village and EGR, how they have kind of like ornate street lamps and whatnot. In one of the street lamps, like the lampshade, we'll call it, had actually like broken free. So you see this, it's heavy, and it's just dangling in the air, kind of like bouncing back and forth with the wind. And at that point, it was an order from the local authority that was like, hey, everything's off at the moment. Like, y'all need to go back home and shelter in place. So we went back.
So we went to a bar.
Well, as you should. Were the fires, were they already happening?
Phenomenal question. So at that point, there was definitely like, actually, I'm going to rewind just a little bit. So we went from our ride, we were going to get our registration and everything, get our numbers for the race. And the line was like, here to Lansing. Like, it was long. And we're like, well, we'll just head back to the place quick, change up, we'll head over. It was a nice day, so we opened up the window to the condo, and it was probably like I feel like it was like 1:30, and had the window open, and it just kind of smelled like campfire a little bit. From there, we just went back to the race, and that was where we hung out for a little while, and yeah, saw the roof lift. That was something. And everything was off at that point. When we were walking towards Iron Monk, reasonable shelter-in-place location, there was a lot off to the west, just kind of like odd sky. But we were in there for probably an hour and a half, and we walked out, and it was just orange, like bronze orange color everywhere. And Rob, Jake, and I kind of looked at each other, and I was like, I don't know.
Well, we didn't have at this point, like they had pulled all the runners off the course, so they had evacuated. But they said there was down trees and down power lines, so we kind of figured. Still, like didn't really know that it was wildfires that were the issue. And so again, not even thinking that they're going to call our race. So then when Eric's right, we came out and we saw what was coming. And then, you start looking at the news and they have mandatory evacuation zones just west of town. Well, we don't have a car. Like we flew in and Ubered and stayed right downtown. Stillwater's not a big town. It's like staying in Rockford. We were just going to ride to everything. So then it was like, well, shit. Like if we have to evacuate, how the fuck are we going to do that? Can I cuss on this podcast?
Yes.
How the fuck are we going to do that? And so there was a group of ladies here from town that we know. And so I shot a text out to one of them and said, hey, don't leave without us. Like, just get us to Tulsa or something, if we have to go, and then we'll figure it out from there. And so we had a contingency plan in place. Fortunately, we didn't have to go to those measures, but people that we know that were further west of town did, and actually had to evacuate from their Airbnbs.
When you left to go to this race, were there wildfires burning at that time?
Not at all.
The wildfires are just a happy surprise for you.
Yeah, they just literally came up that day.
There was a red flag warning for the possibility because it had been so dry,
Yeah.
but there was no active fires or anything until probably about noon or 1 p.m. on Friday.
So you just went to this place knowing, it may be windy, but you had no idea you'd be caught in wildfires.
No.
Not on our radar at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, at all. Probably should have been, I guess, in hindsight.
We'll be hearing them moving forward.
We were just happy to get the hell out of Dodge. I mean, the winter has been so shitty here, and then the temps in Oklahoma looked, objectively pretty good. Because the weather for that race can really be hit and miss. It can be cold as shit. It can be nice. And it really did look like we were going to have a banger of a day. And I think that's what our focus was mostly on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess having the foreknowledge of like seeing it escalate and build, I don't know what would be better because we woke up to our phones with tornado alarm, and then there was a tornado next to us, and like it was like all of a sudden, and it was a quarter mile from the house, and we had no idea. But you guys got to actually like kind of figure it out. But I think that would almost be worse because now you guys are worried about like contingency plans of like how you got to get like you had a lot more stress where we ripped the Band-Aid off, basically. You guys had to, like, wait for it.
Yeah, and it was kind of a high-stress evening. Like, I went out at around 6 o'clock to go just buy some oatmeal because the race was not canceled for a very long time. And so I was, like, walking to the store, and the winds are still 70-mile-an-hour winds. And you've got this orange sky, and nobody is on the street. It was like the zombie apocalypse. I mean, it was wild just being out in public in this. And it was hard to even breathe just walking down the street because the air quality was so bad. And so we were kind of just waiting for a word from the race director, like, are we racing tomorrow? Because if not, this night is going to look way different than, if this race is on. and so sure enough, Bobby Winsel, the race director, came out with a video at about 7 o'clock and said, the race is on unless they tell us we can't do it, which was a big surprise to a lot of people. And I think if he had to do that announcement over again, he would do it differently. So I went to bed thinking, I'm racing tomorrow. I guess we're going. And it wasn't until we woke up the next morning, or at least me, that I realized the race was off.
These guys, all we've been doing in the Airbnb. So we have an Airbnb with, your original plasma LCD TV, and there's no streaming stick or anything. And like the local news is like a CRT TV, and never have watched more local news. So going through this whole evening, watching just fires burning, I mean, very unfortunately, houses burning, and then we got the word that the race was on. It was just weird. And I was shocked. Jake and Rob, kudos to them, went to bed and I think fell asleep relatively shortly after. I was up past 11, and I actually saw the second update from Bobby come out because he called it at, I think it was about 10:45 at night. And so I went to bed kind of without an alarm. I was shared a wall with the kitchen, and sure enough, heard those guys early in the morning the next day, and it was on to contingency plan of how to make the weekend a little honest. Because the thing, and I get this, because the air quality wasn't going to be a health issue if the forecast held, and the forecast held overnight. Like the winds flipped. AQI was actually really, really good when we woke up in the morning, and we knew numerous people that actually hightailed it out of town and went straight to Bentonville. Woke up in Bentonville at 8 in the morning, had an AQI of like 300. And we were like, well...
3 former guests went to Bentonville.
Yeah.
Matt, Jenny, and Jill.
Yes. So, yeah, we were thinking of them. And then the whole Bissell crew is out there, too. Jake was on it and kind of did some reconnaissance and looked at some prior year courses. And we ended up just taking... I could tell Jake wanted to race 100 miles, and I did not have much interest in racing going on a 100-mile ride in Stillwater, because the thing is this, like, if things go sideways in a race and you're 50 miles from Stillwater, okay, like, everything's fine, but there's literally there's nothing... Nobody's going to be doing an Uber from 50 miles from town if there's some catastrophic mechanical. You could walk to whatever, or there's at least other people around if it happens. So he picked out the 50-mile route from 2024, I believe, correct?
Yeah, it was last year's 50-mile route.
Last year's 50-mile route, that was like 58 miles total. And so we woke up, we went out and did that.
Just a short 100K.
No big deal. Well, it seems silly, so the fire came from the southwest, so they change the course every year. The course this year just happened to be going southwest. So we looked for a course that went a different direction. I found the 50 from last year that went northwest, primarily out of the danger zone. But we did end up riding through just a couple miles of the affected area. And we actually rode across a few of these roads. Range Road was one that I remember because like the local TV anchors kept talking about it because we only had like 7 channels at our Airbnb. Like honestly, it was like going back in time, like watching this is like closed captioning. It was great. But we did ride through a couple miles of the affected area where the fire had obviously burned on both sides of the road. And there was one house in particular I remember riding by that was still smoking, and the only thing left was the air conditioning unit that you could see. And so that really put things, not that they weren't already in perspective, but it was obvious that they made the right call not sending 5,000 people or however many people do that race through an area where people have just literally lost, everything.
Yeah.
People
in Hastings think it's annoying when the gravel racers go through, but people that are like just lost their everything.
I got a funny story about that. So we're probably skipping ahead a little bit. I apologize for that. But so Eric and I raced the 100 at Barrier Bay this past weekend, and there were 2 spots on the race where people were burning leaves.
I've seen on Facebook.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't think anything of it. I went by it. I was like, oh, because you're through it so fast.
It was the first day that there hasn't been wind in Michigan.
Yeah, it actually didn't register to me as being an issue at all. Well, apparently that is some of the locals who don't like the race. That's their get off my lawn moment. So it's their way of protesting. Is they intentionally...
That's confirmed or...
So it's confirmed loosely, as loosely as the internet can confirm things. But it by all accounts, it was very much an intentional move as just like a fuck you to the riders, which is so funny because I rode through it and I didn't think anything of it. Eric actually waved to the guy. He was like, hey, how's it going? I'm Eric. How are you? What's your name? And
how's your back feel?
What's your favorite color? And the guy was not interested.
Well, and like Jake and I rode earlier today and we were talking about it, and the majority of houses you go by on the Barrier Bay course, it's a normal Saturday morning. There's nothing going on. Second greatest amount of people are people that are stoked. Love just before the wall. Go by this house, and unfortunately, it was only 45 miles into the 100-mile, and it was free beer. It was like,
the Busch Light guy,
bro.
Yes.
If we didn't have another 55, 60 miles to go, like I'm your Huckleberry. Like let's have some beers. But in general, like the people burning the fires or other nonsense, like unfortunately, will kind of grab the attention of the chatter on it. But by and large, it's like. People are going about their day as normal, or they're super stoked to have it. Kids all stoked to hand out Freezy Pops that definitely don't need a cooler that morning, or beers or whatever. No, it was a good day. Just unfortunate. Small group of people sometimes grab the headlines.
I did have one last question, only for selfish reasons though, for the Oklahoma trip.
Yeah, there was no downhill racing.
No, not that part. I'm flying into San Diego on Thursday, and I'm renting a Turo, but they're not allowed to drop off at the airport anymore. So I'm going to have to ride my bike with my bike bag behind me to get my car, which is like 1.5 miles away, and I don't know the layout of San Diego. I don't know if it's hilly or not. I assume not because it's by the water, but... Did you guys have to ride from the airport, or did you get an Uber?
No, that's actually, there's a insignificant tangential story on that. Get an Uber XL, or...
It's only 1.5 miles. Granted, it's a dirt jumper, and I don't have a seat. There's that.
You might just have to do it. But you don't, whatever you do, if you get an Uber ride selected by somebody that has less than a 4.8 rating, don't take it. Just don't do it.
4.8 is the cutoff?
I'm outside with Rob. I'm getting the Uber to get to the airport for our flight home, and lady confirmed it. And I looked at Rob. I'm like, this is going to be a problem. I've never seen an Uber rating like 4.78 before.
Yeah, let me chip in here. We didn't fly with our bikes. We shipped them, and so we just have normal luggage at this point.
Okay.
Yeah,
that changes things.
It does. Yeah.
Heaven forbid we tried to bring a bicycle or, hold it out the window or something.
One of us wouldn't have made it.
We wouldn't have. She was ready to kill all of us. She pulls up and Jake is just doing a once over of the condo, which is good because generally I can forget things more often than not. And Rob and I hop in. She's like, "Where's your third?" Like, you've been here for 60 seconds. Like, it's fine. And Jake comes out to the car and like you could read the situation right away. Like there was no speaking to this woman. She just had a scowl. She was angry, and
It wasn't. It was almost like we like flagged her down off the side of the road to like, hey, can you just give us a lift?
Like it's not her job.
Like, you know, she volunteered, but she volunteered for this. So I get to the car and I've got a carry-on, a roller bag, and then a backpack or whatever. And it's a giant Cadillac like DeVille, huge vehicle. And so Eric and Rob are both in the back seat, and they're like, well, you can't put your luggage in the trunk. And I was like, well, can I put it in the front seat? And they're like, no. And the front seat's empty. Can I sit in the front seat? No.
What?
So, okay, so the three of us jam into the back. 3 full-size men with all of our luggage in this giant car. and it was obvious, like she was not having it. Like I don't know what she expected in this deal, but it's not surprising that she had a 4-point. I can't believe she had a rating that high.
it went down.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I mean, you guys primarily do. I like you both mountain bike, but primarily gravel has been like your big thing, and you go on trips and stuff. And one of the things I have on the list is Kellen and I travel for downhill and for like all mountain and stuff. I just wanted to kind of compare the difference between like a gravel road trip and a downhill road trip, because I just picture the whole situations being considerably different.
Yeah, what's the big thing you look for in planning a trip? Like what kind of terrain or what stands out to
Good
you?
roads.
I would bet that what happens after the race is probably pretty similar.
Well, usually we don't race. But yeah, probably.
Yeah, so in fairness, like I've traveled for mountain bike races probably just as much, but I'm talking about cross country races.
Yeah.
Just as much as I've traveled for gravel races. And it just kind of depends, like, but I'm not going to travel out of state for something that I know is objectively going to be lame. I've traveled out of state for very small grassroots events that just seem like they have a really good vibe.
Yeah.
And it's an area of the world that you'll probably never go to. Like, why would you, again? Midsouth isn't quite that. It's definitely not grassroots. Maybe it started that way. I don't know. But it's one of the premier events in the country. But there's a good contingent of West Michigan riders that have gone there and that go there every year. And the reports on it are, it's a vibe. I mean, it's like people compare it to Iceman, and I assume you guys have been to Iceman.
Yes.
And that is a vibe, part of it is because it's in Michigan, and part of it's because it's the end of the season, and part of it's the point-to-point thing, and there's a pro race and whatever.
And an awesome downhill race the next day.
I haven't heard about that so much, but but yeah, so it really probably just depends. We've traveled to Eastern Kentucky, the hills of Eastern Kentucky, where you're not going to have cell phone service the entire time that you're there, just because I had a friend that did a race down there that said it's badass and you should check it out. It's I think probably a fair answer is, does it look like it's going to be an awesome experience, between the race itself and the vibe? And if so, is it worth spending the money to travel there? If yes, then we're going to do it.
I guess I was kind of thinking more of when you're traveling with your bike and not necessarily racing. I'm sure that you guys still go on sweet bike trips for vacation.
Correct.
That aren't races. And I guess how does that, like, how do you pick where you're going? Is it just kind of based on routes, like on a website, or?
I would say it probably depends on if you're flying or driving. And so, we went to France last year, and I didn't even think about trying to ship a bike. Like, I just rented one when I got into Nice. But if you're local, there's a ton of places you can drive to. Like, we've taken trips down to Brown County, which I'm sure you've been to Brown County. Yeah. Just phenomenal riding for the distance, 5-6 hours away. It's just unbelievable. So I don't know. It's just a lot of the stuff I feel like is just spur of the moment shit. We talk about over a couple beers, like, hey, how do you feel about going here? Sounds amazing. Let's do it.
Do you specifically search out like flat areas where you can just ride forever, or more hilly areas? Or is
give
it
me
just
the
whatever?
mountains.
Mountains?
Yeah.
I'm not built for the mountains, but I'd been on a trip to eastern Tennessee, right on kind of Tennessee, North Carolina border. in going out there, like that was my first experience riding in the mountains, and I was like, this is sweet because it's very different than riding around here. You sprint to the top of the hill and you coast on the downhill. And it drives me absolutely insane how you get to a race day like Barry and people are just jamming on the uphill and then they're just coasting on the downhill. And it's like, bro, you realize that you could put down like 100 watts and go 6 miles an hour faster. And it's such a better use of your effort. And so kind of going into and our buddy Casey, who was up actually for Barry, he actually said to Jake at the end of the race, he's like, what's the deal with all you guys up here? Like, y'all attack on the uphills and then just coast on the downhills. Like, what's that about? And there's so much of, not to get heavy nerd here, but there's so much efficiency to be gained by just pedaling a little bit on the downhill. And going back to your original question, like going on some trips and riding in different terrains, riding up mountains, going downhill, like, I don't know, coasting at 30 miles an hour at a downhill is sweet, but pedaling a little bit and going 40s, super fun as well. And you just cover ground so much faster. So,
I've actually seen Eric scream at groups of people that he didn't know because they weren't abiding by his rules of racing.
this is a good little segue. So,
do they yell at you for being single speed and pedaling out and then being in the way?
That's the thing. When you're single speed, nobody can yell at you. You always have an excuse.
You can't yell at anybody on a single speed. You just got to do your own thing with that. But Jake, in 2021, I believe it was your first 100-mile race, correct?
First 100-mile ride.
First 100-mile ride.
It happened to be a race, but yes.
It happened to be a race. It was Barry. I had originally signed up for the 100, but I was not riding enough to humor in a scenario that it would have been a fun day doing 100 miles. So I was on a group chat with a couple buddies, and I was like, yeah, I'll do the 36 with you. And, you know, I went on Bike Reg. I go to transfer. I send a screenshot of my transfer to the buddies, and
he thought that was good enough. He's like, we don't need to let the race directors know I'm transferring. I've got this screenshot. What more do you want?
So as you're seeing where this is going, I show up to registration, and I see Marnie, and she's like, Eric, you're in the 100. I'm like, shit. I should not be in the 100. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm registered for the 100. I'm not doing the 100, but I'll start it with you, and I'll just kind of, you know, I'll serve as Sherpa and, you know, try to just.
That's what I did last year with Nick Garrison.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of fun being Sherpa. So I end up just riding. This was the first like 45, 50 miles.
Correct, yeah.
With you, and I'll let you take over for.
Yeah, so a couple things. I was terrified to do this race. I mean, I had just started riding. Like, I had never done anything like it, and I was taking a lot of solace in the fact that I was going to have somebody with me that I knew. And so then Eric bails. I was like, son of a bitch. And candidly, I probably should have too. I just was not in a place fitness wise to do the race, but I was like, fuck it, we're going to give it a go. So we start, and the first 50 miles, there was a different course than it is now. And so the first 50 miles were way different than they are now. And so we're in a group, and people are not doing what Eric thinks they should be doing, which is just keeping consistent power 100% of the time. Uphill, downhill, doesn't matter. And so he literally is yelling, like, there's probably a group of 50, and he's yelling at everybody in the group to, like, nobody knows what the fuck he's talking. I didn't even know what he's talking about. Like, but he's screaming at him, and he's, like, making these hand gestures, and he's, like, he's going back to the front, and I know, I'm the only person that knows, he's only got about 20 more miles to go, then he's done. All the rest of us are riding 100, and that was 107 miles at the time. And so, sure as shit, like, but he's riding really strong, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, shit, maybe because he's still registered for the 100. He has a number on his bike. And I'm thinking, well, maybe he'll ride the whole thing. Well, no, he pulled the plug and headed to the cooler at about 52 miles. And then I ended up finishing on my own, and which was a miracle. But one of our buddies from the UP was in that group when Eric was screaming at everybody, and then saw him on the side of the road, you know, with a beer in hand, like smashing a cheeseburger at mile 75. He's like, what the fuck, man?
Sorry, Ben. I know that was upsetting.
But I can't. I've known you for a pretty long time, and I've always thought of you outside of rooting for sports teams being pretty mild mannered. I just can't picture you like cracking the whip behind a whole bunch of people in a 100-mile race.
You obviously haven't ridden with him very often.
Never, actually. Zero.
There you
zero
go.
times.
Your comments are not surprising. Then
I've poured more beer with his wife than I have ridden with him.
I could chill a little bit.
I did not expect that story. That's funny. So you guys do have fun in those races. It was miserable for me because I was on a mountain bike and we were probably in the maybe fourth group back, like the 6.5 hour pace group. And I was just pedaled out on my mountain bike with my full knobby tires on wide bars. I'm just like,
Did you pedal the downhills though?
you got to say yes.
I mean, until
I'm
I
walking out of this right now.
Eric, my gear pedals out. What do you want me to do?
Spin faster.
All I could do is tuck in a little ball and get behind the person in front of me.
All right, well, as long as they're pedaling.
Yeah, well, if I didn't do that, they just pulled away from me. It sucked. But I did get a couple comments like, I'm getting passed by a guy with minions on. But I only did 60 miles. I saw where the wind was coming from, and I was like, it's cold and snowy. I'm going to just turn here and go to the bar.
Yeah, I could move.
Stop at Deering's, get some burgers. You're from Ohio originally, right, Jake?
Correct. Yep.
What was it, Ashland?
Ashland, Ohio. Yeah, not too far from Mohican is big
Yeah.
in the cycling community now. It wasn't when I was growing up, but it is now. So I grew up in Mohican country.
My downhill training when I was like actually doing cool stuff on a downhill bike was at Mohican Wilderness down there.
Yeah.
The treetop canopy tour place. There's wild stuff down there.
It's people wouldn't believe just how murderous that terrain is. You know, it's hilly, it's rocky, it's chunky. It's like they have that Mohican 100 that I think it's every bit as hard as Margie. And you'd call me crazy unless you did both of them. And then you realize, like, yeah, this is tough. This is tough stuff.
Yeah, Courtney's doctor that did her surgery, he'd done Leadville a couple times, and he's like, I'm going to do Mohican. And then he said it was a very eye-opening how much more technical it was.
No, there's no comparison. I mean, Leadville is almost a road race, you know, compared to Mohican or Margie or some. Part of it's because there is a lot of actual road in that race. But yeah, I mean, I've been out to Leadville, and there's very little. There's a little bit of technical stuff just because you're going so fast down some loose, chunky terrain. But yeah, that area of the world where I grew up is actually a phenomenal place to ride. The road riding there is also exceptional, which we just don't have around here because the roads are so terrible.
Yeah. Not that I don't ever ride on the road because I'm scared of the drivers, basically.
That's right. Well, any road that's worth riding on is heavily trafficked.
Yeah.
The downfall of that spot where I grew up is there's not a lot of gravel. Like all the side roads are paved, which makes the road riding really good, but it makes the gravel riding we're pretty lucky here. Like if that's something you like, we can just walk out of our front door basically and just have endless miles of gravel roads with no traffic. You don't have to worry about cars. You just have to worry about meth labs and dogs and people burning their trash. So
That's interesting. I mean, I'm sure like that's not an area of Ohio that a lot of people go to unless they know someone there. There is a college there, isn't there?
Ashland University.
They're the same with Grand Valley and Ferris and stuff, right?
Yeah, so they've since recently transferred out of the GLIAC, and they're in a different conference now, a much smaller kind of private religious school. So we're sort of fish out of water with Grand Valley, but yeah, it's halfway between Cleveland and Columbus. My claim to fame is it's where the Shawshank Redemption was shot.
Oh.
It's like my uncle's in that movie.
Kellen, you're driving through there on what, Friday?
Yeah, I'm heading to Rays on Friday.
Oh, Toledo.
Yeah, heading through Toledo, but yeah, heading to Rays, Cleveland.
Oh, it's in
Rays.
Cleveland. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, yeah.
How many times you been to Rays, Jake?
About the same amount of times I've been to Cedar Point. Basically 0.
What about you, Eric?
0.
I would think living in Ohio, Cedar Point's a staple, something you have to go to.
That's why I made that point. Is you would think so, but
Where's the coolest place you've ridden, Eric? Is it the mountains in, like, I'm assuming you mean like Bristol, Tennessee / Johnson City areas?
We were near Klingman's Dome. I think we were in like Seaverville, like Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area.
So a little farther.
So that was my first experience. But since then, like, favorite mountains I've ridden.
Just I said favorite place. It doesn't have to be mountains.
Well, all my favorite places are mountains. You know how you'll probably like, well, maybe not, but hatch an idea like way far ahead of time, and you tell Courtney, and you're like, cool. Like, I told her about it, and like everything.
yeah,
cool.
should be no problem.
Yeah, it's no problem. Like,
We're good.
I gave her a heads up. Like, it's all good. So I signed up for SBT Gravel it was 2021 was the race. And I had told Teresa, like, end of 2020, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to go do this race in Colorado, and I'm going to get a rooftop tent from a buddy. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time out there, like, be over a week. And so we got to SBT's like mid-August that year. And like early July came around, and Teresa and I, we worked together, and she's like, whoa, I just saw the schedule. Like, you're gone for over 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah,
I told you about that.
Yeah, we talked about it. Everything's good. She's like, okay. So I went out to Colorado, and I get out there. I think I left on a Friday morning. I get out there on a Sunday. I went straight up to 10,000 feet. And that was a spiritual experience. The first like hour-long ride up there straight out of the car. But ended up like just being able to kind of like settle into Colorado. And there was a bunch of wildfires out west. So I ended up kind of bouncing between like Steamboat, Breckenridge, Buena Vista, Crested Butte.
Those aren't very close to each other.
No, they're not. But I would just look at like the AQI map to where like air looked good. I would just go ride there. So like in Crested Butte, I got to ride the 401 trail, which was super. I mean, it not technical. Merrill's more technical than that trail, but it's just super cool. Just high like alpine trail, beautiful area. That very much got me, I need to spend more time in the mountains, because I did the Copper Triangle ride, which is just you go over like 3 mountain passes out there. If you're ever out in Colorado in early August, like go and do that road ride. Even if you don't ride road, like just go and do it. Super cool. SBT was awesome. And Teresa loves beach vacations. I love mountains, riding, all that. So the two places we very much have found common ground, I wish they were a little bit more accessible, is Malibu in California. Like the dirt road riding out there is phenomenal. Roads are super quiet. It's crazy how you're like 30 minutes from LA and there's like 5 cars that are going to go by you over a 2-3 hour ride. And then Maui, been to, and like those, like Maui's more just kind of like undulating. Like unless you go up one of the big mountains, it's not anything like being in the Rockies or being outside LA, but the riding is super cool.
See, the Big Island's super mountainy.
The Big Island, yeah.
That's where I used to live.
That's right. You were in
Hilo.
Hilo, okay.
And then I lived on the side of the volcano that kind of got washed away in the last big eruption. But if you guys are looking for another good common place to go, when I did that race in the Azores, we climbed volcanoes, and there was hot springs, and there was good beaches, and super good surfing. Like one of the places they do the Red Bull cliff diving is like right visible from like the main area, and it's just like Hawaii, but a third of the price to go there. And it's cool because it's a different country, a little bit different vibe, and everyone's super friendly.
That's sweet.
Really good food. They're known for wine and cheese over there.
Yeah, me and Brian coming from like a downhill background, I know for us we know what makes a good trip or a good ride for us, and what is good for me it might be different for Brian. But for you guys going for gravel or road, like what's the thing that's most important when you're looking for a trip? Like, is it the vibe, or is it the terrain, or is it the scenery, or is it something else that
Average of
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, I think like it depends. Like, a lot of the trips that I've done, like similar to Eric was talking about, is it's with my wife, or we're meeting another couple, and like maybe like my buddy rides but his wife doesn't, so you got to sort of find that common ground. Like we can't just be, number one, we can't be gone all the time, and number two, when we are gone, there has to be things for our respective spouses to do. And so we've gone to Brevard and had a great time, like, because that area, that Brevard Asheville area, there's a ton of stuff to do. And there's a lot of variety. So like we did great mountain bike riding, we did great road riding, there's good gravel riding there. Last year we were in France. Eric and Teresa and Kristen and I are going back to France this year. It's just, the variety that you can get. Now there it's all road, but you can ride along the Med and it's super flat if you want and just be a tourist, or you can just head up into the mountains right away. And I like seeing stuff that we can't get around here. Like, I don't see the point in going someplace that's just like here. I want to go someplace where it's different. The topography is different, whatever. And a lot of times that end result is mountains. Big ups, big downs. You don't get more than a 4 or 5 minute climb around West Michigan. So,
Ironically, everyone I know from France is like the best mountain bikers I know. That's all they do.
Well, I think if time and logistics weren't an issue, I mean, that would be amazing to go.
Well, we were supposed to go to Barcelona for my 40th, which just happened to fall dead in the middle of COVID. But we were going to go to Barcelona, and then there's just so many things, like the Mediterranean. I wanted to eat seafood, I wanted to go to the dirt jump park, I wanted to go downhill, I wanted to go cross country, I wanted to do it all. Rent e-bikes, everything.
One place I want to go check out again, and I did not have a bike at all over this trip, and it was so not on my radar, but we went to Quebec City for a weekend, and so we took a train from Montreal up to Quebec City, and as we got within, I don't know what the distance was, but the last 45 minutes of that train ride, I was just looking left and right, and I'm like, oh my God, this single track that is in that area. Have either of you guys ridden like that area?
No, that's one of the areas I have not been, but we were kind of floating the idea of doing Lake Placid and then Mount St. Anne, but I think we're going to have to choose. I think it's too long to be going for both, and they're not as close as I thought they were. I thought they were just like,
I was going to say that.
go over the river. And they're right
That's
there.
not super close.
If it wasn't for the dang river, it wouldn't be so bad.
Damn St. Lawrence.
So, Eric, I kind of recently, got a magazine, and you were the cover. I was going to call you cover girl, but I guess technically your wife was the cover girl and your dogs were cover girls. But you're a chiropractor, even though I typically say that you're not necessarily the back cracking type, but you're the kind that just likes to torture me. But it always makes me feel better eventually.
Yeah, some time.
My boss came and saw you last week. And I'm like, did he hurt you? He's like, not bad. I was like, did he save it for me?
I always got something in reserve for you, Brian.
But can you kind of like describe, like we were talking about it on the last episode with Marnie about what your style is compared. Was it active release? Would you consider it?
No, I mean, there's a fair amount of just different treatment modalities that kind of run through. Like, brief synopsis, like, you need to move symmetrically. If you're not moving symmetrically, you're going to get an overuse injury on one side at some point. You can get away with it for a long time, but
About 39 years.
you get away with it for a long time. Some people get away with it for 59 years. And let me tell you, when you figure it out, you can't get away with it at 39 opposed to 59. It's way easier to fix it at 39 than 59. But no, I mean, I worked with Jason Ross at Train Out Pain for 7 years, and he was awesome. Still very happy to have him as a good friend today, but it's so hard to just kind of put a synopsis to it, but we all nerd out, like Jake and I, after a ride today at Rockford Bike Shop, like we're talking about power numbers through the race and, what'd you do for this? What'd you do for that? And, we spend so much time nerding out to those just little objective data measurements, but so often we just hop on a bike and just go for a ride, which is awesome. Love tank top ride. Want to go for a ride? It's nice out. Sure. I'm not going to go through and do a bunch of stuff. And to be quite honest, I'm terrible at doing things like before regular rides and workouts. But when you actually spend and get in a habit of doing a concerted 5 to 8 minutes of just stuff that can help you move more symmetrically on the bike, because as you're pushing down with your right foot, you're even on flats, you're pulling up with the left foot, correct?
Ish.
All right. Well, I mean, you're always working in tandem. So if your right quad isn't working as well as it should pushing, you're setting your left hamstring up to take on greater brunt of the force, which isn't great. And I mean, there's no impact with riding, so you can get away with it for a long time.
No impact.
Okay. There's no constant pounding.
Every time
such
I
as running.
see you, I've bounced off the ground very hard.
That's not what you're supposed to do, though.
Yeah, well, I hope you've learned the trees don't move. You could be going real fast, you never scare them. And then you end up having to get things fixed. But from an overuse standpoint, but yeah, so using active release technique, functional range release, things like that, you kind of just try to hone in on where the deficiencies are, try to make things more symmetrical. Sometimes it's foam rolling, other times simple exercise, but there's a lot to be gained by putting just a little bit of time in to get yourself ready to go ride. I mean, I know for certain I know you're not a big data watt enthusiast, but
what's your FTP, Brian?
Well, it started out 295 in the winter, but it seems to have dropped throughout the winter. That's why I'm back at the gym.
But you end up spending so much time that it's amazing. I mean, not necessarily 1 day worth of priming myself for a ride do I notice a huge difference, but if I'm on top of just getting myself ready to go for a ride for a week straight, the ease of whatever wattage I'm seeing on a weekend ride, it's way easier. So
I'm glad. Well, I'm not glad. I wish Craig was here, but Craig is the resident nerd of the three of us and would ask you all kinds of nerdy questions that I would have to edit out later.
Nobody gives a shit. Craig wasn't invited.
Take that, nerd.
Stay home, Craig.
No, we wish Craig was here, but he had something come up last minute.
So Brian was telling me about how when you work on him that he's like, yeah, my right shoulder's hurting.
It hurts more than the crash.
And then you're working on his left shoulder. He's like, is he not listening? I told him my right shoulder's working. But yeah, that makes sense. If your right quad isn't working, you put more attention on your left, so you're working the left to ease the right. I don't know, stuff I wouldn't think of, but yeah, it's according to Brian, you work good, you worked your magic, and
he's just fucking with him. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna beat up his left shoulder. See if he says something.
Now they both hurt equally.
We were going to the World Cup a couple years ago, and I literally couldn't stand up or walk.
Well, Brian, symmetry is the issue, and I can't fix your right shoulder, so I'm just gonna hurt your left one. There, you're symmetrical.
That's it.
There, you're even.
It's one thing they've never covered that in any of the seminars I've been in, but jury could be out. Who knows?
We don't have to make it better to be equal. We just make the other one worse. It's way easier. Didn't you say Grayson had a hard time with them?
Yeah, my youngest, oldest, yeah. Back when one of my kids was about 1, he had an issue where he would eat and then constantly throw up afterwards. And the doctor that we took him to recommended a chiropractor, and they did some weird stuff where kind of mess with his neck and stuff like that, and it did help. I didn't think something like that would be a chiropractic issue. Have you ever heard of something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing, and I mean, were you in the treatment with him?
Yes. Yeah.
So
would
I
take 'em.
mean, like my wife and our wonderful associate do an awesome job with kids and like infants, 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds. And it is like an entirely different thing than what like any of us would go
Yeah.
through like
Yeah.
at the chiropractor. Like it's all just very gentle. But there is so much to be said about just trauma baby goes through with birth, like, compression through the neck, just gently trying to open that up, or, just gently try to encourage a little bit more rotation through their low back, because your low back goes to all of your digestive areas, and, it can kind of help out with like, colicky baby or GI stuff.
Yeah, they definitely weren't trying to hurt him like you tried to hurt Brian.
No, and I'm like,
Is that a ginger thing, or do you do it to everyone?
Yes.
no,
I told you about him bailing on me at the Barry 100 in 2021. Yeah, there's a pattern here. Get help, Eric.
You suffer. I'm going to drink this beer. Speaking of beer, though, tell us a little bit about your beer laps stuff.
Yeah, so
I actually don't know like much about it besides I see you guys have cool jerseys and shirts. So that's all I know.
we've come far, but not that far. Now that I think about it. So not to go too deep here, but so when I first kind of really got into riding was over COVID, which I don't think is uncommon.
You're really fast for starting that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's annoying.
And so I bought my first bike in April of 2020, and pretty soon everything, it wasn't really because of COVID, but everything sort of shut down shortly thereafter. And so I eventually bought a mountain bike, and a bunch of my buddies also either had mountain bikes or they bought them. But there was a group of us that, because you were really limited on what you could do. Everything was closed. You weren't supposed to be around people. You weren't even supposed to be around people outdoors, but you had to do something. Nobody was really working that much. And so we, a group of us would meet out at the Canonsburg State Game area. And we would like just rip hot laps. Like, we'd spend 38 minutes or 39 minutes riding the trail and then 5 hours cooking brats and drinking beers in the parking lot afterwards. I'm like, man, biking's awesome. Like, I get on board with this. This is phenomenal, But I'm a relatively competitive person, and I come from an endurance sports, as is Eric, endurance sports background. And so it wasn't long before I decided I wanted to start trying. I didn't know what trying was, but I was going to start trying. So, a few of us got to the point where we thought we were like kind of hot shit. Like we discovered Strava. We're like, oh man, I was the fastest person at section 4 today. That must mean something, And so we did get to the point where a few of us thought we were like kind of hot shit. But we're out there like riding in basketball shorts and cut off t-shirts.
Whoa. That's like what we wear.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying that's what we were doing. And I'll never forget it. This group of guys comes ripping by us, and they at the time rode for the same team that was sponsored by a local brewery. They've since changed sponsors, but and I know all these guys now. They're great. This is not a knock on them, but they looked so serious. They look like we probably do now. But
Stupid founders team.
Oh, I didn't say that, but it does fit the bill. And they went by us like we were just fucking standing still. And like, it was embarrassing. And they were all matching and they were all kitted up. And so we were kind of joking. We were like, well, that'd be cool to have a team. Like, there's no fucking way anybody's ever going to sponsor us. So we got, let's just sponsor ourselves, I guess. So we were just like, the idea of it being a team never really, I don't know how it came about. We just kind of started calling ourselves like, we're just like, those guys are like that brewery. They ride for them. Like we need something way more generic, because like all we do is hit hot laps and drink beers. So that's where beer laps came from. Like, yeah, we're just like just the beer laps group. And shortly thereafter, so I started racing in the spring of 2021, and so I had some cheap jerseys made up, just the Beer Laps racing team. I pulled some clip art off of Google, major copyright infringement for the initial jersey that we had. But I wanted a picture of a bald eagle with tears running down its face. for no reason. I don't know why. That's what I wanted though. And on the back of this, so the first jersey, and there's only 4 of them that exist in the world. And I do have one of them. And so like that was sort of the impetus of the Beer Laps racing team. And at that point, it was really just me. I was the only person racing. And I've honestly really been a little overwhelmed and really flattered and surprised at how it has kind of grown over the years. It's been totally organic. We don't recruit people to come ride and race with us, but there is kind of a certain vibe that goes along like with our group. Not all of us are serious. Not all of us are road riders. A lot of us are very much just mountain bikers. Some people don't race, but it's really grown into a group of kind of an eclectic group of people with varied interests. And not that I ever had a vision, but like everybody knows who we are now. Like
How many people are there now?
Probably 40 total.
Man.
But I don't keep track of this shit. Like I don't care. Like it's not that I don't care. It's just like I don't keep a roster. I don't charge dues. Like we don't do it. Not that that's bad. It was just I don't do shit like that. And there was me and my buddy is the co-founder, which is hilarious because like he doesn't really ride that much anymore. He didn't really ride that much to begin with, but he did come up with the name of Beer Laps, and so we're 50-50 in this endeavor.
There's nothing about Beer Laps that says you have to ride a bike.
No, you don't. And honestly, if I had it to do all over again, I may have called it something else if I knew it was going to turn into something, because I know we've turn people off or lost people that maybe they don't drink or they don't see that as part of their identity, and that's perfectly fine. Like you don't have to like beer to be on the team, but it is in the team name. So I understand why people who like if it's not that part of their life, they don't want to be associated with it. It's not that I don't get it. I totally get it, but it's been really cool, and we've picked up some really talented riders, really very talented riders over the years, and it's just because they like being part of the group, part of the team, and I've really been. I wasn't looking for this in my life, but I found it, and it's awesome.
Did I see on Zwift you guys have jerseys, or is it just a conveniently similar theme?
No, they have a conveniently similar.
Is that what it is?
I was gonna say we're not that nerdy.
No.
Well, I am. And I was trying to get our Pedal Progressions logo uploaded so that we could make a.
So my suggestion would be for your Beer Laps, you have the racers be the Beer Laps, and then the like people just want to be part of the team but don't race be the relapse team.
Honestly, that's the first time I've heard that. That's not terrible.
So this is rewinding just a little bit to like the basketball shorts and riding bikes, and Jake being like, "Oh, I'm getting a little glimmer of like my prior self, and maybe I could be good at this. Maybe I should take this a little bit more seriously." And so I love humoring any question about. I don't always have the perfect idea. No one does. If they do, they're lying to you. But I love talking training. I love talking nutrition. And Jake's getting into like, some of the first like big rides he's going on. It's 2021. I think he's riding up to Big Star.
Correct, yep.
Yeah, he's riding up to his cottage, and this is a good like 80 plus mile ride. I think he built it out to be 100. And he's like, what do I do for nutrition? And I was like, well, you got to get
Bush Lights.
I
had the post ride down.
Yeah, he's very good at recovering after the ride. But I was like, well, I mean, you haven't eaten a ton on bike before, try to make a bottle up with like 40 grams of carbs an hour. Like, that's a pretty reasonable starting point. Like, your gut's not going to be furious with you with having 40 grams of carbs in an hour. And finishes a ride, and we're talking, and he's like, yeah. So I got to that hour mark, and I stopped, and I slammed my bottle. Like,
every hour on the hour.
like
as instructed.
The man listens to advice. You just can't be like, you can't be too black and white, because he could have been sipping through that whole like prior 59 minutes, but he was just waiting for the glory of the 1 hour mark each hour of that ride to just slam a bottle at the top of each climb. One of my favorite, like, aside from the classic, like, wearing boxer briefs or underwear, like, between you and your chamois, like, this one really, like, that one I kind of get a little more, but this one just,
It just seems so damn dumb because looking back on it, I'm like, I cannot believe anybody would do that. And I definitely can't believe it was me.
It would have been better if you'd done it with a funnel, like keep the beer laps theme going and beer bong.
It would have been that way. Would have made it
Would
make
have
more
saved some
sense.
time.
Yeah, but it's to make put a broader point on it. When I first started riding, Eric, I've known Eric for a long time. Eric and I actually ran track in college together, and we kind of grew apart as you do. When we were finding our careers and our families and whatever. We've reconnected over cycling, and so he was a big person I would lean on for stupid questions like that. And then somehow fuck it up when he gave me great advice. And him and my college roommate Casey, who still remains a huge source of inspiration for me. Although now that I listen to more of the stuff he does, I'm like, he's just flying by the seat of his pants. Like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about at all. But Eric has always been very thoughtful with his advice, and I don't need as much now. Not that I don't need any, but I don't need as much. And I've had buddies that are actually just recently, one of my friends who was a great runner in college decided he was going to get into cycling, and he just raced Barry-Roubaix on Saturday. The first group ride he's ever done, certainly the first race he's ever done, almost the first outdoor ride he's ever done. And so he's been hitting me up for advice, and I've just been trying to do the best I can to pay it forward, because it is awesome to see guys, girls, whatever, especially people like, this guy's got potential. Like, he could be phenomenal if he doesn't do dumb shit like I did. And so, yeah, but it's funny looking back on that. Like, I can't even believe it's the same person. But yeah, I did that.
It's great. And now it's gone full circle, because I'll be ruminating about things and pick Jake's brain. And it's kind of the beautiful thing about the sport. Like, again, anybody tells you they know everything, run away. So always a good sounding board. It's fun.
It's amazing how much unsolicited advice you get when you do wear baggy shorts and a basketball jersey for all of your rides.
One of my favorite, like,
people tell me advice as I'm passing them, like at places. Like, oh, you'd be really fast if you did that. I'm like,
you'd be passing me a lot quicker than you are now.
Yeah. Thanks for the advice.
talking about, like, guys that I'm latching into track and field because that's what Jake and I did. And there's a super talented guy. He was from Rockford, ran at Michigan State. Super good, like, anything. Get him on a board. He's doing, I don't know, whatever cool skateboard things are. Kickflips, ollies, like, he's nailing those things. He decides he's going to go run. He runs fast. Decides he wants to ride a bike. He's going to ride a bike fast. And he hears about this TGA that's on Tuesdays out at Townsend. And he shows up on a 3x26 inch mountain bike that's just ghost shifting. And he shows up in a t-shirt and basketball shorts. Drake is an absolute legend. And everybody, and this is where it's so great to see, because I love TGA, because TGA, you've got your first, like, casual lap. It pulls a lot of people out to it. And then you get, like, the hot lap to where it's just go what you can. And everybody's kind of like, everybody always gets along, but everybody's chatting with everyone. And then all of a sudden the second lap starts, and I see people, like, looking around. They're like, who is this guy? And Drake ends up on his 26 inch mountain bike, like, holding the wheel of the top few people that are out at it. So it's like, anybody shows up at basketball shorts for the group ride, like, don't discount them. Like, they might bring the hammer down and just make you feel pain.
I know me and Brian love doing that, just looking unassuming, and then you get those advices, and then you just fly by them. And
What'd you say to that guy that was, like, puking at Luton?
yeah, I was
Oh,
going,
don't die in that bitch. I heard someone else did.
I was
At the Orange Loop.
So the story goes, I was at Luton, I was pulling my bike off, and I was riding a 160 travel trail bike, and some guy came up to me talking as I was getting my all together, and he had a hardtail, Specialized, S-Works, like full decked out. And he's like, yeah, that's a cool bike, but you'd be so much better if you had one of these and all that. And he took off like 2 minutes before me. And I caught him fast. And I rode his butt, and you could tell he was...
Didn't he pass you a couple times by taking shortcuts?
Yeah, so he would take the shortcuts. He'd pass me, and then I'd be right on his butt again, too. And he'd let me by, and then he'd be like, oh, just go by if you're around my butt. Then he'd take the shortcut and pass me again, so I'm right on his butt again. And
Three times?
Yeah, like 3 times. And that yellow loop, there's like 3 spots. He did all 3 spots. So then we get up to that bench right before you go in the orange, and he's like... Just go. If you're gonna be riding my butt, just go. And he was hurting. It was more of a I need a break. I can't do this. Is why he told me to go. So I did the orange loop, and as they come out, you come right back out by that bench. He was in the bushes puking because he pushed so hard. I was like, "Don't die like the last guy there." As I rode by. so that's how the story goes. But yeah, it's stuff like that you love just looking unassuming and then just whooping their butt. But yeah, there's a memorial bench on Loop Orange for anyone that doesn't know.
That is some of the best advice that I've gotten about racing. The first like out of state race I did is a race called Southern Cross in northern Georgia, and it's a 48-mile gravel race with 2 enormous climbs. Like the first climb is like 15 miles, the second one's like 12, whatever. I'd never done anything like that, and I showed up. I had a decent bike. But it was my first bike. It was. I didn't change anything on it yet. And my buddy Casey, I was kind of looking around. He's like, all these idiots show up on the 60. He's like, they might be fast, they might not. He's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about yourself. And like that was a good piece of advice. And that is still true. I show up to these races. There's guys on rollers. Yeah. Like automatically I see somebody on rollers. I'm like, well, that guy must be super fast. Well, maybe he is, but also maybe he has more money than brains. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some of that goes on.
Yeah.
We definitely should get out and do a mountain bike ride together. I always enjoy stuff like that. Just not riding with the same people all the time.
I'll rip a hot lap with you.
Yeah, I've been trying to meet up with Cam because he's like my neighbor. Go ride. We always just miss each other by like the small time margin too.
I saw him on the way here.
Did
he was riding. I was a little bit early, so I took the scenic route, and I was just driving up Blakely, and I saw the Beer Laps kit coming at me, which is always so awesome.
It's awesome. I mean, we can go and do a mountain bike ride together. Just have a beer open for me when you get done. I'll be a bit behind.
Aren't you going to leave early and go fire up the grill and eat a hamburger and heckle us as we come in? Isn't that what you do?
I mean, I do love giving out hamburgers to people that are riding bikes. It's one of my favorite Margie memories.
We did that at Iceman with Jill this year.
Nice.
Passed out cheeseburgers. So kind of shoved them in people's faces.
Great move.
I wouldn't even mind doing a road or gravel ride with you guys just because I don't do it. Have you guys show me what it's all about. Do that.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, there's so much good stuff around here. Like, the single track, though, is great. I mean, we're super lucky. People hate on it because it isn't someplace that it isn't. It's not Bentonville. It's not Brown County. But we're so lucky. Like, I was up at the Dragon when the Dragon wasn't even a thing. It was just that first 9-mile section. Mm-hmm. And I rode up on a guy, and we started talking, and I recognized his voice. And it was one of my law school professors from Notre Dame. And he had just driven up from South Bend that day to ride 9 miles of the Dragon because there isn't shit to do in northern Indiana or southern Michigan. And so to have the trail systems that we have around here is glorious.
We really are lucky with how much trails we have. As
100%.
much as people want to complain, we do have a lot of good trails.
Yeah.
I did a 85-mile ride from here last year, and I was just thinking about when I want to try to pull that off again. But basically, it's go down from the Cannon Township Trail down into the backside, State Game, take Marnie's Trail up to Cannonsburg, up to Luton, out to Merrill, out to Wallfield. And if you wanted to make it 100, you just do Merrill again and Luton again on the way back.
Or we could just go into do like an urban, like get underground, get Ken O'Shea, get the bike park, link back up, stop for a beer somewhere. Like, you got a ton of stuff. Like, you could probably link together. What would that be?
I've never ridden 100 miles at one time. Ever.
Nope.
Sounds like a mission for the summer.
No, I've done 85 and it was fine. It was just, I got sick of doing it. I was like, I'm gonna do it. The day that I did it last year, I think it was like 96 degrees, so it was getting a bit warm.
It didn't start out well there. You called me like 10 miles into it. You're like, oh, my shifter battery died.
Oh, that was 40 miles in.
I had to go run new batteries. And
Did you not listen? I said Cannonsburg and State Game, and then Luton. I saw you at Luton. Yeah, he had to bring me a battery. I had just come back because I had fallen and broke my Garmin mount, so I came and got a new Garmin mount at home, and then I took off up to Luton, and it's like, my battery's dead.
It makes me pleased to hear that, even in your more XC purist enjoying the bike, like, you still want your Garmin. Like, I feel slightly validated.
I think I'm nerdier than you think. I just different nerd stuff. Like really, the only thing the big metric for me is always what it was my average in miles per hour. Like that's
obviously the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean that's it is to me. Like if my time through something is a little bit faster, but like in certain sections I'm lagging because my average mile per hour is a little bit off. I'm like,
you weren't pedaling the downhills.
Obviously.
I always pedal the downhills. Downhill
Bless
racer.
your soul. I love it.
I don't have a soul. Thanks.
ask him how many Garmin's he's had.
Yeah, I'm on my third one. I apparently like to take them off and have beers and leave them on my bumper.
That's an expensive mistake.
Yeah, try twice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But we run little ones because a big one, it's a lot easier to hit a tree with a big one. I guess we should wrap this up. I am very grateful that you guys could fill in on short notice. It was very nice of you on this nice day outside.
That was great.
Got it was something to look forward to. It's on a Monday. Like I got this to look forward to at the end of the day.
Hour-long bike ride, followed by an hour at the bike shop, and then we came over here to talk
about bikes for an hour.
Bikes for 90 minutes.
Stuff, yeah.
Like, it's phenomenal. It's great.
But yeah, we appreciate you guys coming on. Is there any things you want to plug before you go? Your Instagram, maybe your chiropractic?
No, not
Thing?
at all.
Nothing?
Thanks for having us, though.
Your bike team?
Appreciate it. We've already plugged that bike team too much.
You're taking team dues?
Your soon-to-be relapse team?
I do like that.
It's 130 pack of Busch Light is your team dues.
I think that's actually a reasonable team due.
I would say. Yeah. I've lost so much money running this bike team. It's unbelievable.
It's a passion project.
It is. One of the things that we did, this isn't really a plug, it's just more of a boast, but like one of the things that we did from the very beginning that we've held true to is we don't sell space. Like if you notice our jerseys, there's no sponsors. Like I don't even promote my own company. I'm not going to do it now.
I don't even know what you do for work.
Fine. Good.
What do you do for work?
I tell people that I dig ditches. Like, no, I'm an attorney, but no. So we wanted to like, and I've had people, shockingly, I can't believe it, but I've had people approach me that want to like put their logo on the jersey and actually give us money for it, which is unbelievable to me that people want to hand me money for this stupid project. Not me. But it's not. But Eric's contributed. He's contributed more. He's got to let on. But the answer is always no. Like that's one thing we decided when we started. Like we're not selling out. We're not doing it. I refuse to do it, and it's been a little painful at times, but we've kind of held true to that, and I'm really proud of that.
It's crying eagles or nothing.
Exactly. We did move on to original artwork, so now I do own the copyright for our jerseys, which is pretty nice because now they're kind of, I wouldn't say they're all over the country, but they're all over the place. So.
Nice.
Not to make this longer, but we sent one.
He can always cut it if he decides he doesn't like it.
We were out at Leadville crewing for a buddy that was doing the race, and we were right at like the base of power line, like going back. So power line, power line.
Yep.
And I mean, that is just, I mean, you're at, I don't know if that's at 9 or 10,000 feet, but it's just 18% for a long time. And one of the pros in the race, like, somehow hollered at us and was like, it's a sweet jersey. And we were in our beer laps gear. And so it was Keel
Reinen.
Keel Reinen.
His name. Yep.
And Paige Onweller came through for us, and we sent her a Beer Laps jersey to give to Keel. And, you know, we saw Keel's reaction on the video when Paige gave it to him, but I hope he's still rocking that jersey. Like, it was
awesome. Like, it was
awesome.
cool. I love that Paige bought into it as well.
It
And
was
so
great.
he actually came up for Iceman. So she recorded him opening, because I'd mailed it to her with like a little note to him and whatever. So he like opened it up at the Grand Traverse Resort. I could have just I didn't know he was coming to Iceman. I could have just handed it to him. I was probably also there when they were shooting this video.
Probably in
Here in the background.
A little bit of a comedy of errors that happen here, but that happens. And Riley Amos, who is an Olympian, maybe an Olympic medalist even, was in the video, and he was like, I need one of those.
I forgot he was in
Oh,
that.
he was about it.
He was.
I don't think he was old enough. I think he was 20 at the time.
He knows what's up.
So I'm like, man, that's awesome. That is so cool. And I was so happy that, you know, Eric, I don't know Paige that well. Eric knows her better than I do, but it was cool that she was like, she's one of the best in the country, but she was, you know, happy to help us out with our little stupid endeavor.
Fucking Beer Laps, man.
Yeah,
It's all about
Beer
it.
Laps worldwide.
Craig and I do laps at Boyne Highlands, and it's a beer or a White Claw or something similar every 3 laps, and it can get a little toasty going.
It's a
at
dangerous endeavor.
30
is.
miles an hour through trees and hitting jumps.
Don't Sonny Bono yourself, my man.
I know. And if I do, come see you.
Yeah, he'll fix your shoulder that doesn't hurt.
Make the other one hurt.
Well, yeah, guys, we appreciate you coming on, especially on such short notice, helping us out.
Yeah, happy to.
We appreciate everyone listening to this. And like always, guys, remember to keep progressing, keep pushing yourself, and have fun. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Ah, shit.
Yeah.
Like, do we have to redo this?
Oh, that would have sucked if you lost it all.
Yeah, but no, it was fine.